All right, so then that just brings us to our special guest, Karen Jenkins. Now, she knows that we don't do long introductions. Our practice is to let her do her own introducing, so I'll just turn it over to you, Karen.
I am excited to meet everyone here, and thank you so much for the opportunity to just come before you and introduce myself. And I just want to thank you so much for what you have done thus far. And I feel like I have a whole new family now. So thank you so much. And thank you, Jim, for all your kind words. I am Karen Jenkins. I am the Democratic candidate for the 89th district, which is Chesapeake and Suffolk, Virginia combined. 70% is Chesapeake and 30% is Suffolk. I am a mental health professional. I've been one for over 15 years. I work in the school system from pre-K all the way up to 12th grade. And I also work in the homes as a family group, as well as in the community. I got my bachelor's degree in psychology from Norfolk State University, and I got my master's from Liberty University in child counseling and marriage counseling and community counseling. I have been married to Delegate Clinton Jenkins for 35 years. We have 3 daughters, all adults, and we have 2 granddaughters. So Clint Jenkins is the only male in the household, right? So, he is. I'm running for delegate in his seat because he's running for Senate, and so our house is very busy and excited right now. I just want to say that I took this race not because I didn't have anything else to do. I took this race because I had to. We have to make sure that we have people in the General Assembly that care about people, and that's who I am. I care about the mission and the well-being of people, and I've served in my 5th year on Suffolk School Board. My 2nd term, I've won 2 terms so far, and I have done very well making sure that our teachers got a raise every single year since I've been on it. I've been the forefront for that, as well as not just our teachers, but everyone that's employed with Suffolk Public Schools for the 5 years, we were on the low average, the lowest, and now we are average or above average. And I really thank our superintendent for allowing me to fight for that, and seeing the need to make sure that our teachers and staff are able to make a great living working in Suffolk Public Schools. I've been a Girl Scout leader for over 21 years. I'm not one now because my girls are older, but I was a Girl Scout leader for 21 years. And I'm just, again, I just want to make sure that we have people in the General Assembly that care for everyone, no matter who they are, but just have a love for people. And that's who I am. I guess my priorities are women having the right to choose, making that choice. I just do not believe that women should have any politicians in their doctor's office telling them what they can and cannot do. I'm a woman. Again, my whole household, except for Clint, are women. And I just believe, they sound radical. That's what the Republicans are putting on the news, that I'm radical, I'm this, I'm that. Well, I'm radical enough and I'm crazy enough to believe that women are strong enough and smart enough to make their own decisions. And that's my final answer on that. Mental health. I don't necessarily have to have people tell me what the issues are with the mental health, because there are a lot of issues. I live it every day because I'm a mental health professional, where there's be 4-year-olds or all the way to 70-year-olds. I see them and I work with them. So I will be so excited to be there in the General Assembly to speak for those with mental health issues, as well as those who provide mental health services. Our polling shows that, the violence, gun violence, I really believe that people need to be held responsible, and responsible people need to be the ones that's in possession of guns. So I want to make sure that I do that in our environment, It's a lot of things going on with the environment, with the land, with the soil, the water. And I have been educated so much on those things where we're having right here in the city of Suffolk, they want to put a big pipeline underneath one of our schools. And that's just not going to happen, not on my watch. Some of the challenges that we're having is the fundraising. My district is not a wealthy district. My opponent is being backed by the governor, as well as Forbes, who has a lot of money, Randy Forbes. So, and he is just being dragged by the coattail of our governor, as well as our former president, which is Trump. And he makes that known. If you look at anything on Facebook about him, that's what he says. He's going to do exactly what they're doing. And I don't see that as serving people. We have to, again, I keep saying it, you're going to keep hearing me say it. We need to have people in office that have the heart for serving people and meeting the needs. So that's pretty much who I am, what I stand for. And again, I'm just excited to be a part. When I heard about your organization, I was like, wow. And then to be a part of your organization, I'm excited. And I try to write my own little notes to everyone that donates, whether it be 33 cents or $5,000, it doesn't matter. I appreciate every bit of it. I don't want anyone to think that because they gave a little bit, it didn't mean anything. Everything means something. And I've told Mr. Jim that so many times that I am just appreciative to everything that people are doing for me. One more thing, I'm sorry. I just want to let you know, I want to piggyback on what he said, radio. So we're getting ready to hopefully go up on TV. And we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, but radio, helping my husband in the past 4 years with his campaigns. Radio is a phenomenal way to advertise. And I've done his radio for him, where I went into the radio station and recorded. And we make sure we're on, like you said, the jazz, the gospel, the R&B, country, and contemporary stations. So in the mornings, we get the spots where in the morning when they're on the way to work in traffic, they can hear it. Lunchtime, they can hear it. On the way home from work, they can hear it. And then in the evening. And we get calls all the time. We heard you on the radio. So yeah, that I think that's a mark that a lot of candidates may be missing, and it's not as expensive as a lot of other things. So I concur with you, and hopefully maybe other candidates, the Democrats will catch on to that and do radio, and I'm ready to do it.
Thank you so much, Karen. We appreciate your coming to speak with us, and we're grateful that you're running, frankly. It's hard to imagine how both you and your husband are running for election with children and everything else that you're obviously doing. So thank you just for running and for, being such an enthusiastic candidate. We really appreciate that. And thank you for coming here. We're going to open up for questions and answers in a minute. Erin is going to look at any questions that are in the chat. If you have any questions for Ms. Jenkins, please put them in the chat. But before we do that, I am going to extend my request that everybody look at the donation link in the chat and think about donating, even if you've donated before. Usually Mary Pence does a wonderful ask for people to really consider donating again or stretching in their donation. And one of the things Mary always emphasizes is the idea of sacrifice. So I just wanted to talk for a minute. Many of you have heard me talk about my father before, but for those of you who haven't, I will talk about him again. My dad, who died in 2004 at the age of 89, was really a bigger than life figure when I was growing up. And he had done a whole lot of things in his life based on his passion for fighting for what's right and fighting for people who didn't have any power. And he did so many things. He packed so many things into one lifetime. He traveled down to the South to organize sharecroppers, got beat up. He organized a union in New York for stenographers. He got beat up. And he volunteered to go over to Spain to fight in the Spanish Civil War when he was a young man, and got shot in the neck, and carried the bullet in his neck for his entire life. And then when he died, it was removed from his neck, and my mother had it put in gold, and she wore it around her neck. So that bullet stayed in our family forever. It's still in our family. And when I think about sort of my father having ideals and having passion and having anger about things that were happening in his world when he was growing up, and I think about what he did about it, and I think about how frightening it must have been, and how much deprivation there must have been for him to do that in the midst of living and growing up and becoming an adult. And I think, well, you know what? I think I can sacrifice a little bit more money. I think I can sacrifice one more weekend to knock doors. I think I can sacrifice a few more hours to write letters, because I feel like I'm not really sacrificing anything at all. I have a lovely life, and I'm safe, and I don't have to fight with any danger of getting actually physically hurt. And I just feel like all of us on this call are, to some degree, privileged. We're privileged to have safe lives, and we're privileged to have the means to fight for other people who don't have the means. And Virginia is a vulnerable state. I don't need to go over all the reasons why we are supporting Virginia. But sometimes when I think about November, and I think about how frightening it will be if we don't keep the majority in at least the Senate or the House, or in both, if Youngkin has a trifecta, not only will we wake up very upset about Virginia and all the terrible things that are going to happen there, but we are going to wake up frightened for our country, because that is not going to be a good sign. And it's not going to give Democrats wind in the back of their sails. But with Virginia, with a win in November, I think all of us are going to be encouraged, and we're going to be re-energized. And I think the country of Democrats will be re-energized, and will feel hopeful about being able to make a difference, despite all of the horrible things we read all the time, and all the worry we have that the Democrats are not going to pull it out. If we pull it out in Virginia, it's going to have an incredibly strong effect going into 2024. And it's going to keep Youngkin from doing many horrible things. So I'm asking you just to think about what sacrifice means to you and your pocketbook. Dre and I donate over and over and over again. And when we hear people like Karen Jenkins speak, we donate again, because how can you not? You just have to keep donating, and donating as much as you can. And if it feels like a bit of a sacrifice, I guess what I say to myself is, I'm not flying overseas to fight a war. And I'm grateful for that. So thank you for being here. Click the link in the chat. It only takes a minute to donate. And just a reminder, all of that money goes directly to the campaign. It does not come to 31st Street. We don't take any money. We don't have a bank account. It all goes directly to the candidate or the slate. So thank you for doing that again. And now I'm going to turn it over to Aaron to curate any questions that have been gathering in the chat. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you, Lisa. That was an amazing story that you told, and I know it's going to inspire people to click that link. And I just, by the way, I just want to echo the radio thing. As some of you know, I'm a writer, and I recently was reading about what sells books. And this was an essay written by a professional publicist. And she said, going on the Today Show does not sell books. Having your book reviewed in the New York Times does not sell books. Having your book on the radio sells lots of books. So it really is amazing how effective radio is, and so I'm glad that we have a savvy candidate here who's tapping into that. Karen, can you just clarify? So your husband is running for Senate. Is your House district within his Senate district? Is that correct?
Yes, some of it. Like Suffolk, he has the whole entire Suffolk, Virginia, which is the largest city land-wise. And I have only 30% of it. So we do share 30% there.
Great. Good. All right. So you got an in with your senator. That's great.
Right.
So one of the questions that came up in the chat is, how much have you raised in the campaign? What has your opponent raised? And what is your fundraising goal, especially for the remainder of this campaign?
So I know right offhand that my opponent has raised 337,000, and I think his goal is like $700,000 because he's getting, like I said, he's getting money from the governor and all the ones that have big pockets. I think my campaign manager and my finance person is here. If he's on, he has all the details.
Great. Maybe he can put it in the chat as well. Can you tell us a little bit about what message you have found the most effective to motivate your voters, and particularly maybe those independent voters who are trying to decide, should I go with the Republican or should I go with Karen Jenkins?
Well, I mean, I love the doors that I've been knocked, because I'm in the persuasive, so I'm not going to like Democratic doors. And so I'll knock on a door. I just give you some examples. I knock on a door, and some of them, they were like, "Oh, you're a Democrat. We don't want to talk to you." And I'll say something like, "You know what? When you opened the door, I didn't care whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. I wanted to talk to a human being, person with human needs," and that gets me in most of the time. And so once I get into that space with them, and we find out that, hey, I may be a Democrat, but my concerns for people, or maybe from their grandchild or whatever, I have good concerns, and giving them my background about mental health. I'm also financial. I used to run a CEO of a credit union. Those things, then, they was like, okay, well, give me your information. I have gotten quite a few donations from Republicans, because all Republicans, I'll say all Republicans are not bad. They're kind of tired of the things that's going on. And I have just been blessed to be able to be me, because I told them, I said, what you see is what you get. If you look at my history on school board, you see all the things I've done in the community, the different boards I've been on. We go and feed kids on Fridays that play football, and the cheerleaders, because we found out that most of those kids don't have food at home. That's why they're in these extracurricular, so they can stay back and do things. So when Clinton and I found that out a year ago, we made it our point to go feed kids after practice. And so that's the things. We didn't just start doing this. We've been working in the community, working in the churches. I've been a church musician since I was 10. So, it's right here, we're well known in the community about the things that we do. So that's why we have a following, even though the people that we serve don't have a lot of money. Like I said, 33 cents is a lot to a lot of people. And I appreciate that just as much as I do anything else. So that, that, and, the education, making sure that kids have a world-class education. The district that I work in took the books out of, Black history out of the school, the books. So those type of things that I can speak power to from clear experience, and not just what people are telling me, it makes a difference to them. I had one Republican, I'll be real quick, that I went to a door 2 weeks ago, and it was a lady. She had left her keys in the door. So when I knocked on the door, I backed up. I said, first of all, your keys are in the door. And so she was like, oh my goodness. And then, I think she found out I was a Democrat, and I told her, she had a little grandson just clinging to her. And she said, I told her I was a mental health professional, and she kind of nodded towards him. He couldn't see it. So I just immediately put all my literature down, and I got down where he was, and I talked to him, because he had to go to school the next day for the first time, and he was very antsy about it. So this little boy who never seen me, and he was Caucasian, he ended up hugging me, smiling, thanking me. His grandmother was crying. I sent them a card. I sent him a card saying, I hope you had a wonderful day at school, first day. That's the votes that I'm getting, because I'm being a genuine person, and they can see that I take time to care about people.
That's beautiful. And what a powerful way to combat, all of the sort of, I don't know how else to call it, but Republican paranoia that is being drummed up about, and I'm glad you brought up the issue of the books, because I was going to ask you, if your opponent is sort of getting into the weeds of banning books or,
Right.
not letting kids have access to, books about real people and, and real history and all of that.
Right, right, absolutely. And so, I haven't seen him because we're everywhere, anything that's going on in the communities. I went to 2 places today already, 2 church services. So anywhere we can get out in the community, that's what we're doing. And we're not seeing him. I think he's kind of confident that his money is going to get him over, and money helps so we can do things and advertise. But a lot of people saying, wow, we've never had anyone actually come to our door before. So that, and my team, I have an amazing team. I'm going to have 3 organizers. I have my field director that just came aboard, my campaign manager, my finance manager. They are phenomenal, and they're getting things done. So, I'm excited.
That's great. That's really great to hear. And if other folks have questions they want to drop into the chat, they can. I'm curious, does national politics, I mean, it sounds a little bit like you're a Democrat. Does national politics play a role in your district when you're knocking on doors, things like MAGA or Trump or Hunter Biden? Do these things play into it, or do you have to try to diffuse that and try to get local to appeal to people?
No, I don't hear that. I don't hear it personally on the doors. I go in there saying, hey, this is who I am. What are your concerns? And so even if I get a Republican that's kind of, I'm like, well, look, I'm out here in the 90-degree heat, I'm sweating. I'm in heels most of the time, I was like, just tell me what is your concern? I need to know, because I tell them, I said, look, I wake up in the morning of winter, I go to bed of winter. So I'm going to be your delegate. So I need to know what you're going to need from me. And so they're like, oh, she's really confident, Yeah, I am. I have to be. I can't walk around being defeated and think I'm going to win. So, so I just, that's just the conversation, but they don't talk about, the Trump and all of that, because I kind of deflect it and put it strictly on them. What's their need? What's their concern?
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, I can totally tell why Jim has picked you for our slate, and we are just so excited that you're here with us, letting us get to know the real you as well. And I just, encourage everybody to pitch in.